Good morning and happy Monday. Hello to everyone and good morning, Austin. How are you doing today?
Not too bad, Andrew. How about yourself?
All is well. Beautiful day out here in Vancouver. I thought today we'll keep it short and sweet. Hopefully, I know we can. Yeah, we're on quite a bit, but we're going to talk. Just kind of go back to the roots, the foundation, and talk a little bit about mining. What's going on? What's happening? Remind people why it matters so much, even with this increasing focus on technology, innovation, the flight to capital's flight to safety in different cryptocurrencies. I like to always take a step back and look at traditional finance, look at traditional way of looking at things that has been tried and true since the beginning of time, to kind of put things into perspective. So I know you've got a couple companies, a couple articles, and a couple things you want to bring up. What did you want to lead with?
Well, the first thing that's kind of drawn my attention is a great article discussing how the world is going to need about 10 million more tons of copper to meet the global economic demand. That jumped out as something to me that's right up our alley. It's something we talk about a lot. So I want to get your thoughts on that and see kind of where you think we stand as far as copper goes.
Absolutely. I think that's from mining.com, which is an excellent website. I mean, what a resource that site is. Great, quick articles to once again, to remind people of the key place that mining plays in developing the future. And if you don't know, I mean, I've talked about it a lot. And I know that both Dr. Tim Marsh and the president and CEO of Bell Copper, but also Gianni Kovacecchi over at Copper Bank, they'll talk about the absolute critical need of copper towards all of our green and clean initiatives. So, the amount of copper that's in a Tesla, in any electric vehicle, this whole electrification of the world, that's dependent on copper. And although it is recyclable and there's lots of efficient uses for copper, the demand is astronomical. If we're telling people you can't use any other form of energy anymore, it all has to somehow be generated from water, wind, from electrical sources. I mean, it's far-fetched. I mean, we're not there. It's going to take quite some time, but we are developing, and this is the route that this is the direction we're going. So we might as well get used to it. That requires an absolute ton of copper. And why I think it's critical is not only across the board. Let me take a step back. I'm not even talking about infrastructure where you need copper as well. I'm just talking about this electrification issue. To bring up the whole world to the extent that we want to, the supply chain of where are you getting your copper? How are you getting your copper? Is it in a good regulated area? That's all going to matter because it ties into this whole ESG plan that is being rolled out at the same time as every other initiative that you see that's happening with this kind of fourth industrial revolution. There's a huge plan being pushed forward right now. We can, they told us what it is. We can see it unfolding, and I think knowing that we're having copper in areas that we have a strong supply chain that we can trust, that's reputable, is going to be a big key factor moving forward, which is why we need a ton of copper, but also where does it come from? So companies that I just love both Copper Bank and Bell for similar, but also different reasons. I think they're both outstanding opportunities long-term. And I always love it when people bring up anything to do with copper because it's more critical to me. I find it like people like to talk about gold via fiat currency. I love copper because it is that kind of key between all innovation and all of the solutions that people talk about towards this green economy. It's the key to launch us there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think I remember something that copper is one of the best electrical conductive metals out there. It might even be the best at that. So if you're looking at anything to do with this electronic future, anything that's going to involve sort of electrotech or advancements in that sort of sector is going to have to involve copper.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's valuable. It's easily to transport to a large extent. It's recyclable to a large extent. So yeah, it is like a wonder metal, and it's been historically fairly cheap. Silver is another pretty decent one, but copper is a much more abundant. People kind of have forgotten about it because they think, oh, it's copper. It's like a third place metal. You're getting third place. It's not that exciting. It's actually way more exciting. and the need and demand for it is absolutely astonishing. So there's a lot of room and a lot of growth, and this isn't a short-term play. This is, I mean, we're talking 10 years here. So this isn't a small trade. This is looking for companies that you can invest in and grow with and build with, that you're finding the right management, the right projects, and you want to deploy capital early to build with these companies that have legitimate shots of being significant companies that can bring a lot of wealth to your portfolio, but also align your values towards these initiatives and these goals we want to achieve.
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. Another thing that had popped up on my radar that I wanted to get your take on as well is Toma Gold has just announced very interesting results, but I haven't seen the stock moving quite the way that I would have expected to coming off these results. What's your take on that? Where do you think things are kind of going with Toma Gold?
Toma Gold is an interesting story because they have a lot of investments in a lot of great companies right now, and they've done some exceptional deals with other giant producing companies. So it has a bunch of assets in it that are really interesting standalone. And we won't go into that into too much detail right now, but let's just focus quickly on those results. Those are encouraging results, but they're not dynamic. They're not terribly exciting, but it is what you'd expect in that region. So it is actually, I look at them and go, it's very, it has potential. It definitely has potential. A lot of people want outstanding results right off the bat. And they look at the numbers, and I'm going to try and guess here. I think it's 47.8 grams per ton gold, 7% copper. Those are huge numbers. But the second part you have to look at is it's by 1 meter or 1.1 meters. So it's as far as mining goes, those are kind of skinnier veins that are not as attractive as if you had, say, something like 10-meter width. So it's 1 meter is still like 3.3 feet. That's still a decent size, and that's what you'd expect in a lot of this region. So whether you're Great Bear, whether you're Amex Exploration, whether you're Kirkland Lake, you're chasing these skinny veins that can drive down for kilometers. So it's not uninteresting or it's not telling. It's optimistic that they found a big number with that, and if they can chase and find some of these veins that kind of scatter out like branches, then they're definitely onto something. So I think it's encouraging, and they did a smaller drill program to start, but that's pretty good on a smaller drill program to get some decent grades like that. So a lot more work is obviously needed to be done, but this it's hard to move the needle on that, but certainly it should get some people's attention to go, okay, they're onto something. Let's see what else they can do once they start drilling a bit more.
Right. So now, would you say, in your opinion, are they hitting kind of the markers that you would want to see to keep you still attracted on that side of things then?
I think that there's enough interest to keep an eye on them for sure. So like all companies, there's pluses and minuses. Okay. I think that there's things that need to be looked at a little bit harder, but they're in my focus. I'm looking at them. I'm looking for more news. I'm looking for guidance. But that's also the same with anyone right now in that whole area, that world famous area. Even like at Amex Exploration, which is a company I love, it's pulled back this first quarter quite a bit. I think it was as high of 419, I want to say, and it's pulled back from that. But that's like, it's the ebb and flow of the market. Never mind that there's a year or multi-year cyclical flow of these markets. There's also ones just within the year of, say, for example, Amex Exploration. They have a 300,000 meter program that they developed from over a year ago. That's a huge program. It also takes a lot of time to then do that work. So there's going to be periods of time where it's just quiet. And because of COVID as well, there's a lot more work that has to be done. It's much more laborious and time consuming. And that kind of rollover, there's going to be periods of time when there isn't as much necessarily guidance and detail to give because they're doing the literal work. They're getting all the work done. They're getting the assays. They're sending the assays off to be analyzed. They're tabulating the information. So it does have this flow up and down. But certainly, I would love to have someone from the company on very soon to give us an update because we're coming into spring. But this is a company that has been an absolute stellar stock for the last year and a half, 2 years. So it's definitely one to look at because it's pulled back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that strikes, me and my kind of personal philosophy. That's a little bit of an opportunity. When I see anything pull back, I just like to make that joke that, hey, it's on sale, guys. So
Yeah.
no, it's a super exciting time. It's nice to see them coming out with some drill results actually. So definitely something to keep locked in on the radar for as we go forward.
Yeah, because I think it was just last week that they came out with more information from Quran with some great results. So once again, people, you don't know what people's motivations are, and there's so many big funds and so many big money into that as well. Is that you just have people? It hits a target, it hits a time frame, and they say, "Listen, you know what? There's some funds that will just say we've made 20%, we're out." So you never know this ebb and flow of the price. What that necessarily means. That's why I think chasing after price is often a problem, unless you think, oh wow, this is a discount. And if you look at the management, you look at the project, you look at the team, you look at what they've done, and you say, huh, okay, maybe it's just sentiment. So is this a bargain right now? Yeah, maybe it's a bargain. So it hits all those other targets and all those key attributes of outstanding management with a proven track record, not only in their past work in this last couple of years with Amex just being the dynamic company that's been really opened a lot of eyes for people.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I think they hit the nail on the head as far as that goes. Is it's still about having that exact model, still about believing in these companies, and then when we get these results on top of them, that's when it can become extremely encouraging, and we can say, "Oh, yeah, you know what? These guys, they're going to start moving soon." There's some really exciting news coming out there. Was there anything else that you wanted to chat on regarding kind of our little mining quick chat here? Was there anything else on your radar?
I just wanted to kind of take a step back and focus on foundation because I watched a very interesting discussion that was sent to me from a friend. This gentleman, he's a billionaire, Michael Saylor. He's a big Bitcoin promoter. I wouldn't say promoter, but this is a very smart guy. So the promoter comes with I guess a lot of baggage with it, but he's a believer. He's a true believer. He's an MIT engineer grad, extremely smart individual, and he was making the case for specifically Bitcoin. And it's very interesting from an economic point of view. And I would encourage anyone to go listen to him. And it always just kind of, it goes back to that idea of where's value. And he was not focusing on all of mining. He put specifically gold. If you bought gold in the last year, yes, it wouldn't have been very good because it's come up and it's come down a bit. But I just wouldn't focus on just gold being the attack on a fiat currency argument. To me, I always need to break down to people that I find crypto fascinating. I think there's obviously with this electric future, with this 5G kind of synced in, everything is synced in together world that we're going to be in, where everything is tracked. And I don't mean the heavy dystopian surveillance type of idea, but the interconnectedness, things that can work in a very positive way for humanity. Leave the other side of that argument out for now. But if we focus on the good things, the whole crypto blockchain, it fits perfectly. It is part of that solution. Now, my argument is it going to be Bitcoin? I find it hard to believe that any federal agency is going to allow them to be the one in charge. So it's an interesting philosophical conversation. I'd love to be able to chat with him about it. But before we even get into that, is that you can't even do your Bitcoin mining unless you literally mine. You need all of those key ingredients. You need the copper. You need all those industrial metals in order to make the computers, make the NVIDIA chips, make all the processors. You need the helium in order to cool down the stations because they're running 24/7 trying to solve these equations to create a Bitcoin. So it's fascinating. It's great, but you think of the amount of energy consumption it does to make one of these things. It does make sense that you have this crypto that is in some ways backed by the energy consumption that it is driving. And you can then make it much more affordable if you can solve a lot of these energy problems in the future, whether it be through vanadium or through other types of storage, where you can see that there is a synergy where I can envision a world where this starts to become a lot more clear. But what an exciting time. I think there's a place for both. But certainly for people that are a bit older and maybe a bit more historical time frame reference, they will feel much more comfortable holding on to a commodity right now, because at the end of the day, it isn't just about the innovation. It's the entire infrastructure that needs to be built. I mean, it sounds boring, but if you look at the scope of infrastructure, there are family offices that only do infrastructure because you make a ton of money. But the project length is very long, and there's tons of profit points all along the way, and a lot easier to evaluate, to rely on. So it's huge to look at them not only as the exciting innovation idea, but as infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. And it's, there's something to be said for something that we've seen happen over the years. We can consistently see this is how mining companies can deliver results. This is how they can, set different targets, even meet those targets. Where something like Bitcoin is almost uncharted territory that we're all kind of stepping into this new frontier together. It's something I see a lot in kind of the forums and the spaces that I spend a lot of my time, Reddit and Clubhouse and stuff like that. It's obviously constantly at the top of the conversation, and people are starting to clue into that fact of, well, you kind of do need actual mining to be able to do this kind of mining as well. And I think we're going to see a lot of synergy and kind of those two things very much hold together a little bit more as we move forward into that new cryptocurrency frontier.
Yeah, I hope so. And that's the message I want to get out to people is not to have people shy away from it. It isn't boring. There is a synergy there. And I believe all of these solutions will in some way, they'll embed together, and possibly be types of crypto commodity-backed securities. Who knows? There's all sorts of possible solutions, but there are greater minds than I working to solve those problems. But it is fascinating when you kind of take a step back and think of, here's an amazing innovation, here's something very interesting. Well, what made that? So, and go, oh, it's just code, and it's just, well, no, it's not code. It's still engineering. I mean, you have to engineer these things in order to code on them. So then people kind of think, oh, yeah, geez, how do you cool these things down? Or how do you do that? And that's where you can make a lot of money, is you think, do I even want to be on that curve of the innovation part, or do I want to be in the curve of supplying the demand to meet making these computers and these chips and this? So it's just being able to really think critically, to examine something, and then to look at where you see opportunity. But what a time to be alive. It's stressful, it's chaotic, there's lots going on, but at the same time, in these periods of time, if you look back throughout all of history, this is when intergenerational wealth is created. It doesn't happen all the time, but certainly right now is one of those pivotal times in all of human history where there's an opportunity. And if you're focused, and you're focused solely on where the opportunities are and not on all the noise out there, then you're going to have a shot. It's not a guarantee, but you're going to have a shot at making some serious wealth. If you're listening to all the noise on the media, and it's basically popcorn and TV, like it's useless information. It's just noise.
Well, it's entertainment, yeah.
It's just entertainment, and it's not. But it's built to actually draw you in. And I mean, I can fall for it. It's like you're a sucker to be pulled in, and all of a sudden you've wasted 2 hours of your day. So I tell everyone is the main thing you could do is turn off almost all media, find something that you're interested in, focus in on it, and look at these solutions and say, okay, well, how can I prosper off of that solution? There's got to be a way. And yeah, there is. There's 100% a way. So that's the message I like to get out to people. It's a bit of an optimistic way to look at a very challenging time. But it's also a great mindset, because it's very easy to be overwhelmed by a lot of negativity. And believe me, the news today is just focused on that negativity. So why would I want to overstress my brain listening to a lot of negativity? It's just not, it's apparent. We know what the problems are. So let's just focus on who's out there trying to solve these problems in a positive way. And I'd rather spend my energy on that.
Exactly. It's important to strip back all the noise, strip back all the glitz and the glitter around everything. And that's how the best problem solving is done, is when you can take away everything else and focus in on, all right, what makes this tick? How do we get to this solution that we want? How do we get to this future that we're trying to see? And if you can do that, then you can position yourself extremely, extremely well for this kind of the commodity super cycle that we're stepping into, if not already very much into.
Yes, no, totally agree. Great. Well, anyways, I think we should jump off, but is there anything you want to jump on? Is there anything happening this week, or there's anything interesting you've heard or you want to kind of leave us with?
You know, there's a few interesting things floating around out there. I think that we'll touch on a little bit later in the week. There should be some interesting crypto news, so I'm glad that you talked on that a little bit earlier. Should be some interesting stuff as we move into the back of the week. And also for anyone who's still kind of laughing or paying attention to the GameStop situation, apparently Wednesday, Thursday are supposed to be interesting days for GameStop. So we'll see what happens with that. There's going to be an earnings report later this week, so the run up to
Okay.
that should be very interesting. So we'll see what
Very
happens on the
interesting.
back end of that. I'm sure you and I will discuss it later in the week. So
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely curious about that for sure. Wonderful.
absolutely.
Well, thanks
So
so much,
I'll
Austin.
be sure to keep you posted.
Good stuff.
My pleasure,
Thanks
Andrew.
so much.
Take care. Have a good one.